Commander Ralik Thren stood rigid in the Federation Council chamber, the cold glare of the non-human delegates weighing down his spirit. The semicircular dais, carved from iridescent alloys and veined with glowing power conduits, rose before him like a tribunal of stone gods. No human face looked back. No human voice would decide his fate today. Your report, intoned the Vor delegate, his translucent eyes unreadable, has introduced significant concern. Captain, Ralik corrected, voice taut. Captain Thren. The Vor's brow flickered, a dismissive wave of his hand. Former captain. The chamber's antiseptic chill gnawed at Ralik's skin. He braced himself as the Skiri counselor leaned forward, mandibles clacking softly in their chitinous rhythm. Your rapport with the humans, he said carefully, has raised questions of judgment. I reported only what I saw, the truth of the battlefield. The Skiri's head tilted, eyes narrowed. Truth is malleable when viewed through the prism of alliance. The Urda counselor, her blue skin luminescent beneath her robe, regarded him icily. You provided the humans with data on Dominion fleet movements without clear sanction. Data sanctioned by the Council itself, Ralik said firmly, for joint Federation human operations. She smiled thinly. Sanction or not, it appears the humans have taken liberties that make some uncomfortable. Their ambition rivals that of the Dominion itself. This Council will not become a satellite of Earth. Ralik's frill bristled, anger boiling beneath his measured tone. Without humans, my crew would be dead. Perhaps, the Vor said, but without you there would be no pretext for their overreach. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ralik understood. He was the convenient scapegoat for fears far greater than battlefield outcomes. The humans were too unpredictable, too influential. His demotion was a quiet purge of their unsettling presence. You are hereby reduced to commander and reassigned to Charon 4, Sector Delta, effective immediately. No protest escaped his lips. None could. Charon 4 was a world swallowed by endless rain and suffocating green. 2 years under its dank sky had eroded more than his rank. It had worn down his resolve. The cold mud seeped into every crack of armor, the ceaseless drizzle coating every surface with slick wetness. Even the weapons felt heavier, more reluctant to fire. The planet's natives, the fragile Vril, lived in harmony with their marshlands, indifferent to war and violence. Their thin limbs and delicate frames belied a resilience born from centuries of survival in the wet wilds, but they were no match for the Dominion's brutal advance. The Federation's warrior species, bulked with muscle and lethal gene enhancements, bore the burden of defense, waging a grinding war across the soggy terrain that sapped their strength as surely as the Dominion's strikes bled their numbers. Around campfires, soldiers spoke in hushed, bitter tones. 32 contested worlds were reclaimed, cleared, and held. Humans had been at the spearhead of those campaigns, but whispers of dissatisfaction rippled through the ranks. Some spoke of the humans' pushy diplomacy, their veiled threats beneath polite words. Some said the Council grew uneasy with Earth's rising influence, that Ralik's reassignment was more about politics than his report. Ralik kept his thoughts locked inside. He owed his life to those humans, saved in a moment of chaos. Yet here he was, banished to this damp, forgotten front. Bittersweet was an understatement. The day's patrol began before dawn, the gray light struggling through thick clouds that seemed to soak the world. 12 soldiers moved through knee-deep mud, boots squelching, rifles held at the ready. Their breath hissed in the humid air, their visors flickered with digital overlays mapping dense foliage and treacherous terrain. Lieutenant Dorr, a lithe Vor with twitching antennae, checked bearings every few minutes, voice low over comms. The squad's formation stretched across the muddy field, tight but cautious. No one spoke except the necessary. The distant hum of insects and the occasional drip of water from heavy leaves were the only sounds until a sharp crack echoed to the north, a weapon discharge but heavier and duller than a Federation slug rifle, a blur of motion and Dorr chest plate melting where the bolt struck. The rest of the squad scattered, reflexively returning fire into the impenetrable green. Contact! North Arc, Ralik shouted, voice cutting through the static. Suddenly, the jungle exploded. Dominion soldiers emerged from cover, firing energy weapons that seared the air with deadly precision. Bolts pinged off armor. One soldier went down screaming, caught in the crossfire. The patrol was pinned. Attempts to retreat failed as flanking fire struck from unseen enemy positions, the thick canopy masking movements. Ralik barked orders, but each attempt to regroup lost more men. Visibility shrank to meters, rain blurred optics and stung exposed skin. The cold mud turned red with blood and the acrid scent of burnt plasma. Only 2 soldiers remained with him before a bolt caught one square in the throat, toppling him. Then only Ralik. He collapsed into the mud, side bleeding from a grazing bolt. The world tilted. His HUD stuttered, static crawling across the screen. A shadow approached, tall, lean, encased in the alien gleaming bronze armor of a Skur warrior. The alien raised its weapon, mandibles clicking in a silent sneer. Ralik shut his eyes, bracing for the end. Suddenly, a blast thundered from behind. The Skur was hurled back, crashing into the trees with a sickening crunch. More shots followed, bursts sharp and rapid, the unmistakable cadence of human weapons. Through the rain and fog came a figure. Tall, broad-shouldered, clad in dark battle armor slick with water. The helmet's visor reflected the storm like a cold eye. "Commander, sir!" The voice crackled over the comm, rough and teasing. "Got another wet rat here." The cruel nickname hit him like a slap, yet also a strange relief, a reminder that humans were here, and that meant survival. More figures emerged, their movements efficient, lethal. They scanned the area with practiced ease, voices low but confident. Then, from the line, stepped the man Ralik recognized immediately. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, promoted and battle-hardened, the same officer who had led the rescue operation years ago. Hayes's visor tilted, as if offering the faintest nod. "Still breathing?" Ralik coughed, tasting blood and mud. "For now." "Let's fix that," Hayes said with a grim smirk, signaling his squad to assist. 2 soldiers lifted Ralik's battered frame effortlessly. The rain pounded down, washing the blood and grime into the earth. Over the comm, Ralik caught fragments of human chatter. "Sector secure. Skur retreating fast. Command wants a full debrief." As they moved back toward the human extraction point, Ralik's vision dimmed, but one thought echoed louder than any pain. The humans had saved him again. But what price would he pay for this salvation? The interior of the Federation medbay was a cramped, humming chamber of cold steel and faint antiseptic tang. The humid chill of the outside planet lingered stubbornly in the recycled air, the damp pressing against the hull like an unwelcome guest. Commander Ralik Thren lay strapped to the narrow biobed, one arm aching and soaked through with makeshift bandages, his uniform torn and dirtied from the ambush. His sharp eyes, heavy-lidded but still keen, scanned the room as the medical drones whirred softly around him. Commander Hayes stood near the entrance, removing his helmet. His armor was scratched but intact, the emblem of United Earth gleaming faintly beneath the droplets clinging to it. "Not the warmest welcome," Ralik rasped, his throat dry. "Feels like the rain itself wants to drown me here." Hayes smirked, wiping rain from his face. "This place? It's no wasteland. Just a bit wet, that's all. Reminds me of Hawaii in the rainy season." Ralik's brow furrowed. "Does the weather not get under your skin? The endless damp?" "It's been 2 years for me. I still wake up shivering." "Why would it?" Hayes replied, voice calm but edged with a sort of easy confidence. "It's just rain. You get used to worse. Out on the frontier, you learn that water's not your enemy. It's the thing that keeps you alive." Ralik's gaze sharpened, tracking the subtle movements of the medtechs working silently around him. "And yet here I am, sent away for 2 years to this cursed planet because of my contact with you humans." Hayes's jaw tightened just slightly, but his smile returned. "You think the Council was afraid of us? Blamed you? Maybe they did. But you're here now, and we're the ones pushing the Dominion back. Hard." The medbay door slid open. A tall man with tightly cut hair entered, his expression unreadable under the harsh lights. "Commander Hayes," he said crisply, "we've just broken through the Dominion's last defensive lines here." Hayes nodded, stepping toward the door. "Good. This one's easy." He glanced at Ralik, a flicker of something almost like camaraderie in his eyes. "Commander Ralik, looks like you'll be heading home in a week or so." Ralik stared at him, disbelief burning behind tired eyes. "Home? After 2 years here? That's preposterous." Hayes shrugged. With the help of the United Earth Fleet, the Federation has cleared 32 contested worlds in less than a year. This plan is just one of the last in this sector. He turned back to the corridor, voice lowering, and it's only the beginning. One of the Federation soldiers nearby, from a warrior species with mottled scales and thick muscles for his kind, frowned at Hayes. Will this be World 33 you've cleared? No, Hayes said, voice steady as steel. This will be World 49. Within the next 3 to 6 months, we expect to have all Dominion contested worlds cleaned up from these sectors. Then, we start on their worlds. Ralik's eyes narrowed. Their worlds? The Dominion home systems? Hayes' smirk deepened. Exactly. Hayes stepped forward, expression serious as he addressed the small group. We've received fresh intelligence as well. The Dominion has uncovered a new species, one they believe can be engineered to rival humans, or so they believe. Ralik blinked, the pain momentarily forgotten. Another warrior race? Hayes shook his head. No, the native species isn't inherently combat-oriented, as far as we can tell, but the Dominion's gene therapy labs have been working overtime, fast-tracking enhancements, physical strength, speed, cognitive function, all accelerated to create soldiers capable of standing toe-to-toe with us. He let the weight of that settle. So far, the Dominion has been relying on genetically bred slaves, Skur, Grask, others, but this new species is different. It's the first time they've managed to target a species with potential equal to humanity. Ralik's mandibles clicked in slow consideration. If they succeed, they could close the gap we've been using to hold the line, Hayes confirmed, which means our push to clear Dominion worlds isn't just about reclaiming territory. It's about preventing a new wave of enemies that could overwhelm us. We are confident that won't happen, but that doesn't mean we aren't preparing for it. Plan for the worst. What could be worse than a species that could go toe-to-toe with a human? Commander Ralik Thren asked in a nervous tone. Commander Hayes looked Ralik straight in the eye and said, one that could dominate us. Hayes glanced over his shoulder as they approached the waiting dropship. Ralik, you feel up to joining us? Yes, Commander, I am. Hayes gave him a faint smile. Please, we're old friends by now. Call me Hayes. We're the same rank anyway. Ralik hesitated, then nodded. All right, Hayes. The name still felt strange in his mouth. Strange, but right. After all, this man had saved his life and the lives of his entire crew. 178 Federation members owed their survival to Commander Hayes. It wasn't Hayes' fault the Council had sent him to this hellhole. As they walked toward the dropship, Ralik found his eyes drifting over the soldiers moving around them. It struck him. This was the first time he'd seen humans in 2 years. He'd forgotten how imposing they really were. Back during the evacuation, the Marines who'd pulled him out wore massive heavy-tech armor, a uniquely human creation, bristling with servos, plating, and weapon mounts. Intimidating, yes, but that was engineering and menace combined. Now, seeing the majority in standard field kit, Ralik found them more unnerving. Their lighter composite plates and climate-adapted camouflage didn't hide their form. They showcased it. Every movement was efficient, deliberate, and unhindered by bulk. This was humanity stripped of excess, revealing the apex predator underneath. For a heartbeat, he thought, with armor his size, he could probably project that same kind of presence. Then he noticed one of the human women in standard gear. She stood a head shorter than him, but carried herself with a predator's calm certainty. He knew enough about human biology to realize she outweighed him by a wide margin. Bone density, muscle mass. She could probably snap his arm without effort. The thought almost made him chuckle, and then it didn't. If even a small human female could radiate that much danger, what chance did anything else in the galaxy have? They reached the dropship, its ramp lowering with a hiss. Ralik stepped aboard beside Hayes. Where's Captain Elisa Vance these days? He asked. Hayes stepped inside after him. In orbit, with the Goliath, watching over things. The ramp sealed, the hum of engines building beneath their feet as the craft lifted. Through the side viewports, Ralik caught glimpses of human squads below, moving like a single organism, clearing out Dominion strongholds with ruthless precision. In 2 years of fighting here, the front had barely shifted. A few kilometers gained, a few lost. But these humans, they dismantled the Dominion's positions systematically, leaving the infrastructure intact, ready to be reused. Ralik understood then why the Federation Council feared humanity. And if whatever the Dominion was cooking up in their deep territory genetic labs could make these human monsters worry and plan, how bad could it be for the rest of the Federation? The rain and mud of the war-filled world might as well have been another galaxy away. Here, the air was dry, sterile, the kind of stillness that pressed against the skin, as though the walls themselves were listening. The Dominion genetic complex Theta 9 rose from the desert floor like a jagged spine of black alloy, its armored towers and spires wrapped in layers of shielding and sensor webs. No bird or wind dared touch its airspace. Inside, in the cold white corridors, a dozen Salorians floated in restraint cradles, suspended in nutrient solution. Their bodies twitched under the influence of injected growth hormones, neural stimulants, and gene sculpting enzymes. The Salorians were a tall, elegant species. Elongated limbs, chitin traces only at the joints, pale green skin stretched over fine musculature, a people who had long since left their insect ancestry behind. But that was before the Dominion decided to bring it back. Banks of sealed canisters lined the walls, each containing biosamples harvested from the bugs the humans had fought in other systems, jagged fragments of warrior mandibles, spore sacs, and dormant eggs. The genetic code of pure brutality preserved and catalogued. White-robed technologists moved with methodical precision, their eyes downcast, their minds not entirely their own. Every action, every thought under scrutiny, because in the observation chamber above them the founders watched. They were called the Vadron, massive, sluggish creatures whose very presence distorted the air. Their pale, bloated bodies moved with the slow grace of deep ocean predators, their flesh marbled with dark veins that pulsed in time with a heartbeat too slow for any lesser species to tolerate. Each Vadron's head was dominated by a smooth, bone-like dome, beneath which sat two disproportionately small black eyes. Those eyes didn't look at you. They looked through you. When a Vadron focused its mind, the effect was immediate. Even the strongest alien soldiers could be reduced to quivering, drooling wrecks in seconds, their memories and will stripped bare. This was the root of the Dominion's rule. Not ships, not weapons, but thought made into a weapon so absolute that resistance became a concept you could no longer hold in your head. Every species the Dominion had ever met had knelt to the Vadron. Those who didn't were no longer capable of standing. One Vadron, its name untranslatable, a sound like glass grinding on stone, turned its attention toward the tanks of twitching Salorians below. Its thoughts rolled outward like a tide, brushing the minds of the scientists in the lab. One trembled. Another bit his own tongue to keep from screaming. All of them worked faster. Through a massive pane of armored glass, the latest hybrid prototype stood upright on a medical dais. The insect influence was no longer just in the joints. It had crept into the curve of the skull, the ridged exoskeletal plates along the spine, the secondary set of inner eyelids. Where a pure Salorian might have seemed dignified, this one looked born for war. In the cloning pits beyond, worker bugs and warrior bugs, reconstructed from battlefield remains, stirred in their birthing sacs. Their mandibles clicked in perfect unison, each movement in time with the Vadran's faint pulsing presence in their minds. This was no random experiment. The Salorian genome, reinforced with insect ferocity, was the Dominion's answer to humanity's defiance. A soldier who could fight like a bug, think like a commander, and obey without hesitation. A perfect creation, a perfect slave. And the Vadron intended to make billions.